my friend Neesa Suncheuri. She is a peer specialist and a mental health advocate. Oh, and she's also very active on social media with mental health, which is actually how we met. Mm-hmm. So we met on Twitter, actually. I think because I have a Twitter profile that's all about mental health also, and I think you posted something on Twitter that I was interested in learning about. Mm-hmm. And then I messaged you, and then you responded, and then we ended up talking on the phone, and here we are.
Yeah, Twitter's a great way to meet people who have similar interests. You know,
Absolutely.
We found each other, I think, just because our little profile said mental health advocate, things like that. So
right, so Twitter suggests stuff in the feed that's about something about the same sort of stuff that you are interested in.
Yeah.
I also think that I was at the beginning actively searched people
me too.
in the same interests. And so it brings up all the comments that people are making, or the statements, or whatever you want to call them, the tweets that people are writing about the subject. And I think that's how I found you. Mm-hmm. And then you were so excited and enthusiastic, and you gave me your phone number, and then here we are. So it was wonderful. But from there, you got me to join your Facebook group.
About a year and a half ago, I had been working as a peer specialist, a fairly new job for me at the time, but I became very passionate overall about mental health awareness, fighting stigma, creating change in the minds of people, general society. So about a year and a half ago, I started a Facebook group that...
What's it called?
Now it's called What is Wellness? A Mental Health Discussion Group.
There you go. So you had a lot of people coming into your group, and it just kind of grew.
Mm-hmm. It was slow progress, which I think is the best progress because it's steady. In the beginning, I recruited about 50 people to join, and it's interesting because at that time it was very small, and there were a lot of bumps along the way.
Then there are things like when you and I meet. And I didn't know that you lived in Queens. We're in Queens, by the way. And I live in the Bronx, so I didn't know that you're in Queens. It just so happened that we're nearby, and then it worked out really well. So it can work out if you're willing to put yourself out there, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that I wanted to bring into the group was kind of an experience where positive relationships can be built online.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times people feel the disconnect because of the screen. You're not seeing a person face to face. It's hard to find fulfilling true friendship online.
Right.
So part of the inspiration of the group as I created it was to bring my own experience of creating friendships online. I have a lot of friends that I met, 8 years ago online, and we're still really good friends.
Right.
I have pen pals in Germany who I...
through a website though, right? Not like
an
old school...
No, through a website, interpals.net I used. And so I have several friends in Germany that I can always talk to. Just like another friend I met through a dating site that I'm not, it went beyond that and didn't work out that way, but now we're, friends. Yeah. Right. And there's a certain kind of rapport that you can create online that is safe and also emotionally fulfilling. You can have a laugh together on Skype for an hour.
Right.
You can just say how your day was. And over the course of time, as those conversations accumulate, that's how you have friendship.
Right. So for me, I actually liked the screen part of things because one of the things I realized that whenever I tried to socialize in person was that I would always befriend, say, at a bar, the bartender. Mm-hmm. And I realized it's because there's a bar between us, mm-hmm. and that it feels like some kind of safety barrier. And as soon as that person came around the other side of the bar, I couldn't talk to them anymore. And I thought that was really strange. They're still the same person, so what's happening? And it's because there's some kind of barrier. Mm-hmm. And so when it came to, because that was 3 years ago that kind of all went a bit south. Mm-hmm. And so I went back away from society again. And then in 2015, I started to rejoin society. And I did it mainly by your Facebook group. Because I joined it and I suddenly have all these people, including yourself, who are interested in mental health, so I can actually talk about, what's going on with me and what's happening with my mind and, my actions, my life in general, like what I'm going through. And I'm talking to people who actually understand, and it's not a big deal. It's a conversation. And it actually felt safer for me because I didn't have to go anywhere. I could just talk to people online and I could do it from the safety of my own room. So that made me feel a lot safer and a lot more comfortable than it did when I was out in public meeting people in person. I feel very vulnerable, which I don't mind being vulnerable, but other people kind of take advantage of someone who's vulnerable, which is what would happen. A lot of people would start to treat me very strangely because I'm not your average person, and I'd like to have more meaningful conversations than what a lot of people have. And, I feel like people would get tired of me and then start being kind of rude to me and things like that. And that would then affect me mentally. And it just go from bad to worse.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to people from the group, it's like, I can actually talk the way I want to talk to people who are always willing to listen and who will respond the same sort of similar way. And it's been really helpful for me. And now I'm out in the world socializing with people. Like, we hang out, and I've got friends through NAMI who I go out and just do regular stuff with, and we can talk about, I can talk about regular stuff more now because I know that I can also talk about the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it just makes life a lot easier. It's really eased me back into the world.
Yay, I'm glad.
Yay!
Yeah. So it's interesting because for a long time, I have felt that when I am online writing, people respond to me in a way that's more enjoyable for me than when I go out in person.
Yeah.
I feel that my body language can be off-putting. I'm tall. I frown if I don't know somebody. So I feel more lonely when I go out into a crowd of people. But when I'm online, I feel like I'm myself. I feel that when I write, people understand me the way I want to be understood.
Right. Sure. And do you think that you were talking about body language, about frowning or whatever, because people, I think we're very expressive.
Yeah.
And it can be, I guess it's off-putting for people because you know what's going on in my head. If I don't like you, I'm going to look at you like I don't like you. I'm not going to pretend to like you and be nice to you just because that's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you know. And, and if even on social media, if someone is saying things to me that I don't like in my, my Facebook profile or whatever, I will just cut them off.
Yeah, it's easy to
Well, I do that, but I do the same in real life, and I think people don't like that. They think it's rude, I guess, but I think it's rude to continue to pretend to be nice to a person when you don't actually like them. I think that's fake.
See, that's a big problem I have.
Yeah, I think that's where we have difficulty with socializing in the regular circles, because they're all, to me, a lot of people just are nice because they're supposed to be. Mm. And whereas I'm not going to be nice if I don't feel like it. It's as simple as that, Maybe that's why we get along so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we know where we stand.
I think something that's very important to the peer profession in general, and also kind of empowering oneself to be an advocate for mental health, is striving towards recovery. Mm-hmm. True recovery, where it's not just about being sedated with medications to be convenient for other people to deal with.
Right.
It's not about having horrible side effects where you gain a lot of weight. I mean, I had gained 90 pounds from Abilify. It's not about that. It's about working with your provider, your psychiatrist, your therapist, with the mentality that I, or the client, is the master of themselves.
Right.
I know what's best for me, and then the doctor or the therapist will respect that, and then they'll both will work together to create something of a treatment plan, so to speak. But it's not just about medications. It can be figuring out a spirituality that works for you, that can be healing for people. Or also just eating right and exercising.
Right. And thinking of activities to do that you enjoy and being able to do them, because I know for myself when have been depressed, like that's very hard to do. You think, oh well, you should just do something that you enjoy. That's just going to help you, but to actually want to do that is really difficult.
Yeah,
and to teach yourself how to do things like that, I think, is very important.
So I just want to make it very clear that medications are important for some people, and for people who need them, such as myself. Spirituality, healthy eating, that doesn't substitute.
No, but that's the thing though. Like, so in my NAMI presentations, you talk about coping skills and strategies and all that sort of stuff, and I always have to say when I'm talking about these things that these are not the answer. Like, these are just many different things that help me get through from one moment to the next, or whatever, just through my day or through even something big. Like, it's just to get me through those things. I don't exist coping. Like, my whole existence isn't coping. It's needed. It's there for when it's needed.
It's like tools you can grab to use, to help regulate moods, feel better.
And be good to myself. Like, and finally learning how to do that is really exciting. I think. And we went to Washington D.C. Last week for mental health. So
there was a march there. I like using the Facebook group also to. Aside from promoting peer values, I also like using the group to inform people of events.
Right.
And, for me, I'm in the New York City area, and I work as a professional peer, so I'm kind of in the know of things that are going on that people can participate in.
Yeah.
For example, on October 10th, this month past, there was a march in Washington, D.C. for mental health. What is it? Destination Dignity.
That's right.
It was called.
That's what it was.
And it was fairly small. It was on Columbus Day.
It was the second. I was on Columbus Day, and only the second year running. So
So there were about 500 people.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting to bring people along to these events, and it's interesting because I've been going to conferences and things within the New York community, and it's the same faces.
Right.
A lot of the time. So because of that, it's really a community of peers and advocates who are making this concerted effort. And, I only stepped in on the scene about 2.5 years ago. Right. Because in January 2014, that's when I started my peer specialist training, which was at Howie the Heart Peer Advocacy Center.
That's very well known.
Yeah, it's great. But I've only been on the scene for 2.5 years. But when I encounter people that are also in the movement, some of them have been doing this for, 15, 20 years.
Right. Well, I kind of feel like, because I've grown up this way, like my whole life, I started becoming depressed as a child because of the way I grew up. So I feel like I've been doing this my whole life. It's just now I'm finally stepping out into the world and doing it, rather than it just being for me in my own world.
Yeah.
And I think that most people who have experienced mental health conditions have been doing this for as long as that's been going on. It's just that now we have this thing called the internet that we can really reach out to people. And also, I like talking about it. I find it really easy to talk about, and I think it's interesting, and I think it needs to be more so. And I think that for me, my aim is to, rather than people's first option to turn to the medical professionals and pharmaceutical industry, who quite honestly, in my opinion, need everyone to stay sick so that they can keep their pockets full. So I want to, and I know that there's a need for them, but I want people to start learning how to look towards the community of people like ourselves, and so we can all be there and support each other, because my world has changed since I found your group and NAMI and, the friends that I've made and things like that. And my whole world's changed this whole year since that time. Right. It's really exciting in that way, because it's been bumpy, don't get me wrong, because I'm still ultimately moving into society again. Even though there's wonderful people, I still have the difficulties that I had before. It's just that I'm getting through them instead of getting stuck.
Right.
But yeah, I think I want people to start looking towards each other and instead of the, just towards the medical stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I was studying at Howie the Harp, it's an extensive program. It's like 450 plus hours of classroom time within 20 weeks, and then an internship, 3 months. So when I was at Howie, a big thing we learned about is medical model versus recovery model. The medical model and the approach with mental health especially is that behaviors are seen as symptoms that are problematic. Mania, hallucinations, what have you. And the person goes to the psychiatrist with, the ailment or whatever have you, and medications are prescribed to make those symptoms go away, and when they do go away, the person is considered treated successfully. Right. And it's difficult because, that doesn't necessarily guarantee quality of life.
Right.
So there is the recovery model, which is the idea that a person... I said this already, didn't I?
Keep going, just
okay.
Go. Okay. Editing.
Okay. So the recovery model is the idea that the person is the master of themselves.
Yeah.
And the person is empowered, and the person can develop a sense of hope, a sense of connectedness to the community.
Yeah.
Right. I know also when I was attending classes at Howie, my life changed because I was just surrounded by people who believed in the recovery model, who lived their lives having unconditional positive regard for the people they're working with. Very often with doctors, they look at me or whoever and they don't see potential.
Well, you're a patient.
Yeah. They don't see the patient going anywhere further.
Do they make you feel? Because I don't really have experience with the professionals because I opted out of all that years ago. So do they make you feel like this is it for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At times, yeah. Especially because for many years I had schizophrenia and I wasn't being treated sufficiently. So even if I was taking my medications, I'd still end up back in the hospital.
Right.
So that year after year declining and getting worse. It's not very optimistic.
No.
And the psychiatrist that I was seeing didn't really try to make me feel better.
Right.
Like with a picker-upper or even like, I believe in you.
Right.
I mean, I have past...
Like, this is it.
Yeah. I have past experience. I have past experience as a violin teacher, and I've noticed that I did have students who never practiced, who, maybe were a bit clumsy and things like that, but I believed in them.
Right.
I believed that they would be amazing musicians, musical people, and first of all, having that positive regard for them made me more motivated to work harder.
Well, how did they react to that?
Yeah, exactly. And, they were just kids, but they went really far on the instrument, considering the amount of work they put in, which was...
Because I was going to say, because, there's one thing with the psychiatrist saying, this is it for you, you're not going to go any further, you're going to have to just accept that you're going to be on medication for the rest of your life. There's one thing them saying that, and then you saying, well, that sucks, I feel bad about myself now, like, there's no hope. But then there's also maybe along the way you've learned to articulate yourself better, so you've learned to understand what's going on with you and be able to convey that to a psychiatrist. Did that happen at all, or do you think? Or
when I started psychotherapy one-on-one when I was about 10, 11 years old,
wow.
At that point I had depression, and it was really helpful for me to be in those sessions because it afforded me the chance to develop the vocabulary to express these difficult emotions.
So you've always been able to do that?
Yeah, since that age.
Okay, so it was literally like a case of the professionals just like, this is it.
Yeah, because I had distress mentally since such a young age, it felt like this is all I've ever known.
Right.
Because before I was, clinically depressed, there was trauma going on in my home, traumatic experiences. My parents, I guess there was domestic disputes that were very distressing emotionally, emotional abuse from my father, things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm even afraid to say that,
I can tell your voice changed.
Yeah, but,
it's understandable.
Yeah, but just part of my recovery has been due to my fearlessly telling my story.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yes. Telling my story, and just sharing it with people, and other people sharing their stories with me, and that affects me. And in that process, we release stresses that we've been holding in for a long time, forever.
Right.
And also we can bond with one another and support one another.
Right, and create a community. You have support, and you're more comfortable, open, free.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been like that. I've always been very open and being able to talk about this stuff. It's never been a problem for me, but I never had anyone to talk to. Mm-hmm. People would always be like, I'll be back in a minute. And off they go, and that'll be it. I'll be like, I even had a friend when I think we were in our 20s, and we'd known each other since we were kids, and she was like, can't you ever just have, like, a normal conversation? And I'm like, what do you mean? Just, like, about people, I guess, about activities that you've participated in, which is fine, but I think back then it was so, like, I just so wanted to talk to somebody about important stuff that just sounded so boring and so pointless. Yeah. Now I can do that as well because I can do both.
Right.
And community is definitely a huge part of that. I mean, and mental health affects everybody. Yeah. It's indiscriminate. It doesn't care who you are or where you live or how you live or how old you are or whatever. It's everybody.
Yeah. A big thing is that, in terms of social change, people need to be made aware that mental health is akin to physical health. Everybody has, or most people, I guess, I don't know. Everybody,
Everybody has a brain.
Right. Everybody has a brain. Everybody has a sense of emotion, thoughts, and even if people are impaired in some way regarding that, there's still the human spirit and that person's dignity and right to live in a way that is mentally free.
Sure.
So I feel that one tactic that can be employed as we forge towards, a mental health, civil rights movement, what have you, is that mental health affects everybody.
It just affects everybody, basically. Mm-hmm. And for people to say, oh, it'll never happen to me, or, I mean, come on. First of all, you cannot know that. That's predicting the future, which none of us are actually capable of doing, in spite of what I'm sure people think. But no one can really actually do that, and you don't know what's going to happen in your life. There's a lot of people. I'm pretty sure I didn't know I'd be sitting in your bedroom in Queens at the age of 41 when I was 12. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could not have possibly known that. So,
If I knew as a child what I would have had to go through, I would have just been like,
So Neesa's actually on a board for mental health with the mayor's wife, First Lady Chirlane McCray.
Yes.
So just tell us about that.
It's Chirlane.
Okay.
Chirlane, sorry. Okay. Oh, okay. So actually starting in September of 2015, I was invited to join a committee with the DOHMH, New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. They have a board called the Consumer Advisory Board, the CAB. And the CAB is a group of peers who, and people from the mayor's office or DOHMH will come.
What's DOHMH? Sorry?
Department of Health and Mental Hygiene.
Okay.
So people from the DOHMH will come and do presentations for us, and then they ask for constructive feedback. So that started with the CAB, and then I joined another committee with the Regional Planning Consortium, also with the DOHMH. And then from there, I was invited to be on the Executive Council as the only Medicaid recipient of services, and with Chirlane McCray in the committee. So that meets quarterly, so every 3 months. And we had our first meeting just recently, and she was not there. She was in D.C. But there were a lot of other people there that were, of influence. And it was interesting because in New York City right now, there's a lot of kind of workshops and talk going around about the switch to managed care. Okay. And there's something called health homes, which is not an actual home, but it's sort of a virtual home. Mm-hmm. And a health home is a network of doctors and professionals who kind of work under the same umbrella. And their services are coordinated together with a case manager who kind of oversees that. Let's say I'm seeing a podiatrist, and a regular doctor
Right.
and a dermatologist. So they're all,
Okay.
communicating with one another.
Oh, that's great. So they're establishing their own communities,
Yeah.
we're trying
Yeah,
to
right.
do.
Oh,
Hey.
wow.
I just want to mention quickly too that the First Lady, Chirlane McCray, is also involved with NAMI, who I'm involved with. So she's very into the mental health stuff, which is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how the mayor thing works in New York, how long they stay in there for,
I guess it's 8 years.
Or how long has
they
it
can
been?
get elected twice.
Okay, how long has it been elected once now? Or?
Yeah, I think he started 2014.
Okay, because I love their involvement with mental health. I think it's so exciting that they do that.
It's interesting because, because of her passion for mental health, the mayor's office I guess. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So basically, because of her passion for mental health awareness and availability, treatment, education, what have you, New York City has put together a comprehensive roadmap called ThriveNYC. So ThriveNYC is an entire plan that is going to revitalize and overhaul mental health care and resources in the city.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And they're going to be going into schools, intervening with the criminal justice system. A lot of people incarcerated, need mental health services, things like this.
Yeah, well, we actually, as part of NAMI, I'm an Inner and Voice presenter, and we go and talk to at different locations, and one of them is people who are incarcerated, who I've been talked to them many times, and they're a great group of people. They're really engaging. They're really interesting to talk to and to listen to. They're very insightful. Like I feel like they almost know more about how their mental health works and functions and affects them than what a lot of other people I've experienced. Mm-hmm. And it's really important for everyone. So I would love it if people like us would go to more locations to do these things, to talk about our own experiences, personal experiences, rather than just about the medical side, like our stories. I feel like there should be people, like organizations and companies and whatever, lined up around the corner trying to sign us up, that's how it should be. Yeah.
Well, each of us does our effort. You're doing the interviews, I guess the Facebook group, and you help me with the group a lot.
Oh, thank you.
You really do, because running the group, it's Facebook, social media is 24/7.
Yeah, sure.
There's no rest. And that's why I'm tired right now. But, sometimes things will happen on the Facebook group and I can't deal with it myself. I have to get a second opinion. So that's what you do.
A second opinion. And I'm also good at someone starts saying stuff that that doesn't go along with the group or whatever, and that, kind of might cause problems. I'm really good at just stopping that straight in its tracks. Cutting it off the knees. She's much nicer than I am, so thank you to Neesa for allowing me into her home and having a conversation with her. It was very enjoyable, a lot of fun. So I hope everybody else finds it enjoyable and interesting too. That'd be lovely. So that was this edition of Funny Mental Lives, and I'll see you when I see you for the next one. And this will also be uploaded onto my YouTube channel, which you'll see at the end credits. All right.